started in just a minute, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping details. As you heard, today's webinar is being recorded and you will have access to it afterwards. Also, we will be taking questions via the chat box that you see on your screen throughout the webinar, and we will address all of the questions at the end of the webinar, so fire away those questions as you have them and we'll get to them all at the end. I also wanted to mention International Save Your Photos Month coming up in September, which is a great initiative to promote the importance of saving your photos. It's easy to get involved by first, and also if you want to do more, there's still time to jump on board by becoming a sponsor and reaping all the benefits that come along with that. You can find out more by jumping on easyphotoscan.com and checking out the blog section, or go directly to saveyourphotos.org and start by taking that pledge. Lastly, this subject has come up in our office here in Florida not too long ago, and I wanted to say we're excited about this, and I wanted to remind you to sign up for our upcoming webinar on August 9th, From Baby Boomers to Digital Natives, Determining How We Respond to Our Photos, featuring Ann Matuzak, President at Pixology, Inc. Whether you are dealing with a baby boomer or someone from the digital native generation, she will share some insights on how photos are regarded by different generations of society and how we can preserve what is important to them. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Rick. Rick?
Hey, thanks, James. We're excited today about our presentation. I just wanted to kind of reiterate again, with International Save Your Photos Day coming up, please take a few moments to figure out how you can get involved. It doesn't take much if you want to just click on it and say you'll help take the pledge, all the way up to being a sponsor. But today we are excited about the topic of unlocking the power of pictures with photo scanning, then, today, and tomorrow. So to have a topic like that, you've got to have somebody who was there then, is here today, and is going to be around tomorrow. So our speaker today is Bruce Holroyd. He's been with Kodak Alaris for about 32 years, well, Kodak and then Kodak Alaris. And he's actually the third generation of his family to work with Kodak. He is the worldwide product and integration manager for photo capture products in the information group at Kodak Alaris. And Bruce works very closely with the Kodak Picture Saver scanner, and this is the high-quality, high-speed scanners that have been around for about a decade now in various generations. So Bruce has a great insight from the beginning of when these high-quality, high-speed scanners started to today, and he's got some terrific insight into some things that we could be looking for tomorrow. We love working with Bruce. Many of you have worked with him personally, and also he gets the opportunity to travel around the world and interacted with most every major scanning organization in the world. So without any further ado, Bruce, the group's yours. We're looking forward to what you have to share today.
Great. Thank you very much, Rick, and welcome everyone. I'm currently located in Rochester, New York, the world headquarters for Eastman Kodak and the headquarters for Kodak Alaris, which we are now part of. There we are. Just a quick little bit about myself, and I think Rick has already mentioned pretty much all of this. I've been with Kodak, Eastman Kodak, and Kodak Alaris for over 31 years. Third generation employee. I hold a few patents in the micrographics and the scanning line. I've been quite involved with the AIM, which is the Association for Information and Information Management, for quite a few years. And I've been directly involved with the photo scanning products that we're going to be discussing for quite a while, not only 10 years here at Kodak and Kodak Alaris, but also it actually started in my childhood scanning and reproducing photographs, and I'll get into that in a little bit. I'm, as Rick mentioned, I'm native of Rochester, New York, as I'm a third generation employee. So without further ado, why don't we go on? Oh, there I am, so that's what I look like. This, and just a little cartoon or drawing that was put together great by Easy Photo. scanning. It takes a little bit more than your local corner copier to duplicate a photo and to do it safely and to get the best job that you want. Before we can get into scanning and why we scan photographs, I just put a few slides together here. Not that we're going to read every word on them now, but when this becomes out on YouTube later on, you can look at these and understand what what I've got on some of these slides. Just a little bit of what photography is. It's the science, art, practice of creating durable images by recording light or other electromagnetic radiation, either electrically by a sensor or chemically. Means a light-sensitive material is photographic film that we all knew and loved until about the turn of the last century here. So I'm just going to skip through some of these early slides. I'll let you read them on your leisure when you get the YouTube video. Basically, photography, as we know it, has started evolving around year 1800, when the first known attempts were made to capture images through a camera on a light-sensitive substrate. And then along came the French inventor Nicolas Niepce, and they're creating some materials to later capture an image on. And then Daguerre, who really pulled this together and made the first real photographs around 1837. There was some other French work along in chemistry in the early 1800s, mid 1800s. This is all leading up to glass plates, where they would coat a solution onto the glass plate, which had to be coated just prior to the photograph being taken. Of course, they had to be done in a dark area, and created a large amount of equipment that had to be moved around from place to place if you were to want to take a photograph other than where your studio. So this was very inconvenient. And George Eastman, our founder of Eastman Kodak, found that when he decided he was a banker and decided he wanted to go on a vacation, and he looked into what it took to make a photograph while on vacation, and he had to have all this equipment, to carry around just to take a couple of photographs. So he started playing around in his mother's kitchen in night, working around, and came up with a process of work, and he actually came up with a process of coating it on a paper base. And then that evolved into celluloid, which is called nitrate film back then, and then eventually into what's called safety film. And thus the your film that we're all used to seeing prior to this digital revolution. Eastman, as we all know, developed some of the first cameras. Cost $1. Came loaded with film. You took your pictures, sent the entire thing back. They developed it, reloaded it with another roll of film, and then you shipped it back to you along with your prints. George had a lot of famous co-inventors with him, like Thomas Edison. George built a huge mansion on East Avenue in Rochester, which is now the George Eastman Museum, or GEM as it's known, and it's a world-famous museum. If you ever get a chance to come to Rochester, I would more than welcome you. You should go visit that if you have the time. One of the things that they do in winter, Christmas time, is these gingerbread house competitions. Here's someone that made a gingerbread house that looked like the Eastman house, and inside you'll see it's set up just the way Mr. Eastman left it, including the elephant head that he's got in India. He was really into flowers and enjoyed decorating his mansion with flowers of all different types and species. So why are photos so important to us? Why do we take the care? Why do we want to make sure our photos are preserved, and so we can look at them in the future and pass them on to future generations? I found this out of a website called Mom's Steak, and I thought these really resonate well. You know, I've got a little niece that I'm watching, and I can see these, and as my own kids grew up, these all are true. Pictures connect us to who they came before. Looking at picture books, you know, I wish I knew my grandfather. You know, he was long gone before I was born, but his work, his pictures, that we have a connection with them. You know, our memories are powerful. Memories tie us to people, places, and emotions. Without pictures, you know, you're able, or with pictures, you're able to preserve these memories for the days when they're not there, and you can't remember when they're long gone. To find sweetnesses in life, you know, life is not without trials, as we all know, but looking at pictures are ways to help us remember that there is goodness in this world, and even in the mundane tasks of everyday life, we see some goodness in remembering our memories by the look at pictures. And as we already said, pictures can manifest emotions that words cannot. As the old saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So why do we want to preserve photographs? Well, if we look at a chart that was produced not too long ago, it was predicted, or someone figured out, that over the years, when silver halide photography, or traditional photography, peaked shortly after 2000, we were all producing around 86 billion pictures, photos a year, and that is now since, well, in 2011, has dropped down to less than half that amount, and I'm sure it's probably less than 1 billion at this point. But at the same time, our digital photographs that we're all taking with our camera phones and DSLR cameras and all that has greatly increased. There's more photos today than there ever has been. Altogether, if you look at the area under the curve, there's probably 3 to 4 trillion photographs in the world that were taken with traditional silver halide methods. And if you look at some of the reasons why people copy their photos, they're doing it for about concerns about losing or fading their pictures. They're making anniversary gifts, reunions, birthday, wedding gifts, for convenience, genealogy. They want to have pictures of the family members corresponding to the information about their loved ones, preservations from natural disasters, and so on. Top 10 reasons to scan your photos helps you get organized. Organizing your photos helps you get them organized, you get them named, and in a equally indexed way of be able to put your finger on a picture of Uncle Joe or Aunt Mary much quicker than rumbling through your shoeboxes and shoeboxes of photos. It makes it easier to create unique family gifts. You can contribute to communities. Every day you open up a newspaper and you see that there's some kind of scanning event someplace in the country that the communities are coming together and wanting to make books of their community of 100 years ago or in the last 50 years. You know, so this is things that can be preserved. This information can be preserved and put into local libraries and things like that, so that future generations will know what life was like in that area. Personal memorials, telling the story about a loved one that has recently passed, or things like that. Preserve history. Old photo collections often caption history through the eyes of real people. It's not uncommon to find previously undiscovered images from both world wars, news events, ceremonies, other notable events with historic significance. Genealogy, a very big user of photos. Tracing your family tree, knowing who's in the picture and where and when, and things like that. Revitalizing images. As we know, traditional silver halide photos, it's a chemical process, and just process, that chemical process doesn't stop when you get the pictures. that continues on, they start fading, and after a while they could be hard to view. Makes it easier to share your pictures, easy, with the multimedias, social medias that we have today, Facebooks and everything else you can name. It's an easy way of sharing and rediscovering new friends and sharing your life with them. Scanning them allows you to protect them digitally. Putting them up on a cloud, multiple copies are made so that if something, God forbid, happens to your home or where you keep your photos, there's a copy someplace in the world that you can draw upon to reproduce them and to be able to save them, be able to pass them to other future generations. As I mentioned earlier, I've been involved with copying photos since my early teens, maybe even slightly before that. My dad was very much into photography. He was a photographic engineer here at Kodak. And he was also very much into genealogy, chasing our family tree. One thing that we did in nights down in our darkroom in our basement was to copy photos. And this is before our nice scanners that we have today. So what we would do is take the photograph, put it up on a copy board, shine the appropriate lights on it, and with a photographic camera, he had various cameras that we use. We would take a picture of the picture and then develop the film and be able to give back that print back to its rightful owner. Scanners have been around actually longer than the last 20, 30 years. They actually have roots back in the 1860s when their successors were from the early telephotography and fax input devices. The pantograph was an early form of facsimile machine, which it was able to transmit over normal telegraph lines. And it was developed by an Italian. And it was used commercially starting in the 1860s. It was able to transmit images of handwriting, signatures, and drawings with an area up to 150 by 100 millimeters. And then as the technology evolved, that's what the device looked like. In late 1800s, early 1900s, there's been capabilities of scanning through AT&T wire photo services, images of through a rotating drum using a single photodetector cell to be able to reproduce a picture and transmit it across lines, phone lines to receiving stations to put it in your local paper. The early image scanners, which is coming forward now to what we're all used to, we actually go back to the 1950s at the U.S. National Bureau of Standards by a team led by Russell Kirsch. He developed a machine that was a drum scanner that could scan a 5-centimeter square photograph. And so the first photograph ever really scanned with a modern day type of technology was of his son, and it had a resolution of 176 pixels on a side. We're talking about 3, 6, 1200 dpi per inch. In this small photograph, it was a total of 176 pictures. Thus, you can see how grainy it was. Modern day drum scanners look like this, where you put the picture in and it keeps rotating the photograph around and around to get the high quality scan of it. Basically, scanners are made with CCD arrays. A lot of times, most flatbed scanners use a method of moving a fixed mirror or movable mirror across your document, your photograph, using a CCD capture device. Or as in this case of the Kodak photo scanners, instead of moving a mirror across the image, we're moving the actual photograph across the CCD array to capture the image. This happens to be my wife sitting next to George Eastman at the George Eastman house. Newer technology coming on the scene, as you probably heard about, is scanners are coming out with contact image sensors. And what these are is a array, instead of having light bounced over multiple mirrors into a smaller CCD array, which is really compact finely with your array, this is the contact image sensor is the entire width of the media that you're trying to scan, and it's there's no mirrors involved, so it's a direct reflection off the media onto the sensor to capture the data. So the market opportunity, as we said earlier, is humongous. You know, we've estimated there's 4 to 5 trillion photos existing around the world of taking lifetime events, currently can't be shared electronically, probably not backed up and easily lost and easily could be destroyed. So back in 2007, Kodak introduced the S1220 photo scanning system. This device gave us the capability of scanning up to 34x6 prints a minute. Then a few years later, in 2010, we introduced a series of products, one the 410, which duplicated the S1220 speed, and then we also came out with the PS810, which allowed you to scan up to 65 photos per minute. And with these products, we made improvements that from the learnings from the S1220, we've increased the safety of the photos being scanned throughout with a moving in the scanner, and the quality of the image was greatly improved along with the features available in the software. We also came out at the same time a product called a PS450, which allowed walk-up users like in libraries and retail outlets to easily scan their photos themselves without having to hand them over to someone else possibly to do their scanning. We also had at the time developed a model for our sister division called Personal Imaging. They put the scanner on kiosks, so if you go into many Target or CVS stores or Sam's Clubs, you likely will see a Kodak scanner that looked like the S1220 or the PS410 sitting on next to the kiosk. Then about 4 years ago, we introduced our third generation of photo scanners. These again increased the speed and performance and durability of the system. We went from starting with the 30 prints per minute with the S1220. We're now going all the way up to 85 prints per minute when we scan a 4x6 print at 300 dpi. Along the way, we've made some great improvements. One of the things that people love about the Kodak scanners, photo scanners, is the Kodak Perfect Touch. Here's a print that's been sitting in one of my dad's albums from August of '71 in his trip to England. When I scan this print, as you can see, it's been faded due to time, and I scanned it, and it really has brought out the colors to the way it really was back when it was first produced about 50 years ago. Here's a couple other examples. Again, another photo from the early 70s. We scanned it, applied Kodak Perfect Touch, and it really brought out this color. Here's one also from the 70s, and it really has brought out the colors and made the nice contrast improvements. With the PS50 and 80, we also saw a lot of users were having the need to scan album pages, but they didn't want to take the individual pictures off the album pages. Here's an album page from my grandparents' 1930 trip to Europe. We'll see in a few minutes that the album is coming apart in pieces, so we have to be very careful when we're scanning these. And I wanted to get scans of each one of those images, and well, we can easily do it now is with the Photo Selector accessory. Scanning the entire page, then sending that image through the Photo Selector accessory makes it really easy to capture individual images automatically off that scanned image and to produce separate image files of those images found by the photo selector accessory. So taking those images, as you can see, the original album on the left, it's coming apart. The binding is broken. The pages are very brittle, hard to handle. Scanning those pages and using photo selector accessory, I've been able to reproduce the album into a new modern day type of album that should last many, many more years into the future, so I can pass it on to my children and grandchildren and other generations to come before me. So as we said, some of the reasons why we scan our pictures are due to things that are not under our control. A lot of times when you're talking to people, they're getting interviewed as they're running out of what did you grab as you ran out of your house? Well, they say, once my children and family and pets were out of the house, I grabbed my photos. Nothing else matters. It's their memories, as we talked about, is what they're grabbing as they're coming out of houses. They need to preserve those. So with the scanning, it gives them capabilities of preserving them so that if something should happen to their residents, that they know that their photos are saved. So you never know when a forest fire will occur, or a hurricane, tornado, floods, or an earthquake. All those are all natural disasters that we're hearing about every day, of course, and we need to be prepared for those. And one thing to help us be prepared is making sure we have reliable, trusted backups of our memories, our photos. So one of the organizations that several companies have come together to help form is Saving Your Photos. And coming out of the national disasters is the National Disaster Photo Rescue. And this gives you the capability. They go around and help find people that have found pictures, but they don't know who they belong to. They will help, if they've been waterlogged and sitting in water, they help dry them off. They'll scan them, put them up on their website, and hopefully get the images to their rightful owners. Great facility. Another person through the recent floods in the Carolinas did similar things. She helped preserve, save, capture images that were found after the floods through the South Carolina area. Another organization is, as Rick mentioned earlier, Save Your Photos. Take the pledge to save your photos. There's going to be many Save Your Photo days throughout the country and world coming up in September, which people will have the opportunity to bring their photos to be scanned and to be preserved for long term. And there are many organizations, not only Kodak Alaris and Easy Photo Scan, but also all these other organizations that are very much vested into helping people save their memories through photos. Some of the projects that we've been directly involved with here at Kodak Alaris is one called Snapshots from the Korean War. This involved this lady on the left, Betty Perkins Carpenter. She was given 150 to 200 photos taken during the Korean War conflict, and from someone that was hoping to try and get them to the rightful owners or family members that were pictured in these photos. These are all pictures taken over in Korea during the conflict, and Betty didn't know what she was, how to do it and things like that, but eventually she got in contact with Kodak Alaris, and we got her in contact with our local newspaper, which is part of the Gannett system. And after scanning all the pictures, our local paper put up all the images, both the front and backs, onto their website, and we had a big publicity campaign about this. And thus far, Betty has heard from at least 25 or so family members, or even still survivors from the war, that recognized their picture in the on these website, and we provided free copies of them to them so they can add them to their collection. Another thing very much we can do with our equipment, not only scanning photographs, but letters, documents that are also very important to people. Here we asked the U of R when they obtain a collection of Susan B. Anthony letters if we could help them scan it. So we went down to their facility, their library. We set up our scanner there. They brought out the boxes and boxes of letters that they had recently obtained, and we went to work and scanned about almost 1,500 letters and some photos, and they've now been posted up on their website for the entire world to enjoy the correspondence of Susan B. Anthony was doing back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Family Search is a very big user of our products, services, bringing families together through genealogy. They have the capability of hosting memories, pictures up on their website, and we've provided a easy way for them to populate their Family Search website with the pictures that have been scanned on our scanners. As you know, Family Search runs around 4,500 libraries throughout the world, and as you see, the population of image growth on their website has grown significantly over the years since the first ones were put up there just before 2007. Patrons would come into their libraries, bring their photos, scan them on the equipment, and then upload them to their website. They also have a yearly Family Search, their Roots Tech conference in Salt Lake City. The Roots Tech here we're showing Easy Photo had a scan-a-thon where people could bring their photos in and scan their photos and walk away with their images going to be delivered to them at a later time. And part of the fun we had at there was to have this, the staff of the photo booth was have our pictures taken there all together. So it was really easy for users to upload their photos to Family Search. We made it really easy. All they had to do is put in their username, password, accept, select the pictures they want to upload to their Family Search account, and there they are. So all their images are now under their memories in their Family Search account. Easy for them to tie the picture to their friends or to their relatives' entries in Family Search. Other photo opportunities, as you can see, this can go on forever and ever. Funeral homes are big users of photo scanning. Patrons wanting to make memorials, presentations of their loved ones. And as you know, with funerals, you are on a short time. They've been able to pull together with our scanners, put this together real quick and present it. We work with many organizations, Forever.com, Heritage Makers, Doorstep Digital, Skangaroo, Pixology, VistaPix, to name a very, very few that will scan your photos to help you preserve and tell a story. Other places you may see a photo scanner heard at work is your central library. Libraries are more than just books nowadays. They're into helping you preserve your photos. Many, many libraries throughout the country have added scanning capabilities. Retail photo stores are looking for new ways of preserving your revenue generation, and one way is by preserving your photos. There's religious organizations looking for fundraising ways of creating revenue for themselves. The photo scanners have been reviewed in multiple journals, Internet Genealogy a couple times, the PC Magazine. We've had an award recently from the APO Association, which has been very thankful for that, for their recognition of the photo scanners. So what's next? As you can see here, I sort of made a quick chart here of where we've been, and so over, we came out with our first scanners around 2007. We as you can see, every year we've made a major improvement to the system, maybe not to the scanner itself, but also to the application software. And we've sped it up and created new versions. We've kept up with the operating systems. As you know, Microsoft and Apple don't sit on their laurels either. Gone from XP to Windows 7, 8, 10. We've kept up with them along the whole way. Same thing with Apple. We're working right now to make sure we're all set with their new Apple operating system coming out this fall, which is called Sierra. And I would say in 2017 there will be new exciting features to come out with photo scanning from the photo scanning wizards at Kodak Alaris. So stay tuned for those. And at this point, I want to thank you for being part of this Picture Perfect event.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Bruce. Well, we want to invite folks to come across with questions. I've got a couple already, Bruce, so we'll just kind of go from there. Okay. And actually, the first one comes from me. When I told you that, I'd like you to go back to the yesterday part, did you actually do those pictures in 1800, or was that a... Just kidding,
I
Bruce.
can take claim for those.
Yeah. Hey, no, but talking about that really quickly, your picture of taking the pictures, that's a big thing nowadays. Could you talk a little comparing the picture of a picture and a lot of the technology now we see people taking using their cell phones and this type of thing versus the scanning, and then kind of roll in, if you don't mind, a little bit more about those contact scanners, if that quality's better with the direct capture versus the mirror system. Maybe you could just take a couple of minutes and share with us about that.
Well, back in the 80s, 70s, when we were doing the picture of the picture, it was a very slow and laborious process. Even if we had a digital camera, a cell phone camera, what have you, instead of the traditional photographic camera sitting out there ready to take the picture, it took a while to position the camera, position the photo. A lot of these photos were in frames. You had to pull them apart, drop them in, attach them to the copy board, get the lighting just right so you didn't get any reflection on the print and things like that. So it was a lot more laborious, time-consuming than it is today. Than just putting an image through the scanner, high-speed scanner, or even onto a flatbeds, which are greatly sped up also. As far as the technology difference coming up, the current method, CCD, where we've got multiple mirrors within a camera array, which is in a fixed position, and we're moving the photo along it, that has a deeper, a wider depth of field than the contact image array does. So with the contact image array, we're going to have to be very careful in keeping the image at a fixed distance from the image array so it stays in perfect focus sharpness as we can get it. So we don't get any blurry spots in the scanned image as compared to something that was scanned on a flatbed or a CCD-based batch scanner.
Okay, well, thank you very much. There's a couple questions coming in. I'm going to get to those in a minute, but I just wanted could you follow up a little bit about the bit depth? And, that one picture that you showed, the first kind of the 176 pixels, it was interesting the guy used his son, his picture of his son for that. But could you talk about what kind of bit depth they were using and then the bit depths that are currently using, and can you equate that to when you take a picture of a picture?
When you're back then, I think it was 170 bits on the entire side. If you look at a picture today scanned at, let's say, 300 DPI, that you're going to have 2,400 to 3,000 or so on a side per DPI. DPI for a 4x6 print. So it's significantly higher resolution today than it was with the very first attempt. You know, obviously they didn't have the processing power of even our laptops or PCs, you know, we have today. I'm sure back in the 50s he was using a huge room-filled computer to process the image after it was captured. And with the low resolution, you know, obviously you're going to be missing a lot of the fine detail that is in the picture that just isn't seen because the resolution isn't as high as we're used to nowadays. As far as the bit depth, back then I'm sure it was only a couple bits depth. It was, you know, black and white scan, and they didn't have the capability initially to scan in color. Whereas, you know, with our color scanners today, you know, our typical scanners that we all use and love to scan our cherished memories, they're typically 48-bit depth. So there's 48 different levels of colors combination, in which brings into, you know, billion combinations of colors that can be captured.
All right, so we've got a good question here about computer technology. Someone's asked about the new Macintosh platform, or the things that are coming out that way. I guess I'll take the question just a little bit bigger and compare it to one other question that's popped up here as well, and that is, what do you see happening as far as compatibility? I know one of the biggest things that we see out there is people buy technology and then their drivers don't work with the next generation. I mean, it happens, it's just a planned thing, kind of as the evolution of technology comes on. So what do you think about that as far as the technologies that we have today? Could you give us a kind of an estimation of what you see or feel is going to be its lifespan before we start seeing other things? I know we used to save everything on a floppy disk, and we don't do that anymore. So evolution is going to happen. What do you look for in the future?
Well, the same thing to continue, as I mentioned earlier. You know, El Capitan just came out less than a year ago on the Apple platform, and they're already got out in beta now their next platform, Sierra, and we are taking the steps to make sure we're ready for Sierra when it is launched as a product in the fall timeframe of this year. This is you know, something that manufacturers, not only Kodak Alaris, but others that, you know, have to address as time goes on. For the most part, you know, our scanners are sold for, you know, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that, and then we support them for another 3, 4 years after that, or 5 years, 6 years. During that time, you know, there's many versions of the operating systems coming out. There's things that, you know, we can't control, new hardware platforms and things like that. We do our best to keep up with the platforms to make sure that we can work with newer platforms. We may not be quite ready the day the Windows launches, Windows 14 or whatever they're going to call it, but we'll address that as soon as we can. Part of the problem we get is as their platforms, the Windows and the PC platforms advance, in our older platforms like our S1220, our S1220 was the first platform we really didn't we couldn't bring to Windows 10 And one of the things that goes on with manufacturers, you got to weigh the benefits of either migrating older platforms to newer drivers to work on these new platforms, or putting your resources into developing new products that will even have newer, better features for users. And so this is something that we're constantly weighing, where we put our resources to address. So I can't give you a specific question on it, but it's something that we're struggling with, trying to address every day to not only meet the needs of future users with the newer hardware, software, operating systems coming out, but also trying to keep the current products viable on newer platforms, at least the newer platforms that will, the new platforms that will support products that haven't, that are, still are enough quantity out there to make it economically feasible for us to support.
And to that end, another question that just come up is, and this is a really good one. Actually, it's how does Twain and groups like the ANSI, I think that's American National Standards Institute, play into the role that when a developer, an OS developer, comes into play? How do they interact in this? Kodak Alaris and some of the other manufacturers of scanning equipment participate in these groups?
Oh yes, we have a representative, Kodak Alaris, on the Twain working group. We've been I think we were a founding member when we were Eastman Kodak in the Twain group, so we have a lot of input that goes into Twain specs and compatibility and features and functionality and things like that, a lot like other companies do, your HPs and Epsons and so on. They're also members of the working group. Also, I think Microsoft and some of the others are also.
Okay, and a question about the permanency of photos. You talked about that, and I know I'm in the process of reading a really good book printed back in the 90s that talks about that as well. But scanning, looking now and then looking forward, could you address a little bit about the types of algorithms that we're using to kind of to make digital images photorealistic? I know on my iPhone I can make a photo. I've got 150 different things I can make it look like once I've got it in a digital format. But I guess the question is, how do you make them realistic at the capture end?
Well, first of all, is we do our best to get the best capture that we can off the photo. That is job number one, to reproduce the colors and the image as best as we can with the scanner as designed. We excuse me, as it's being scanned, we want to make sure that what you see is what you're going to get in your image. And with the scanning technology we have, we're constantly, you saw all those different revisions of software. We constantly improve the image quality of the images coming off the scanners as we've gone through those different generations of software products and the 3 generations of photo scanners as we've come through over the last 10 years with these products. There's always room for improvement. I'm not saying that we're perfect yet, but we're striving to get even closer and closer to it as time goes on. It's every photo that you scan is going to be a little bit different than the next one, which is different than the previous ones and things like that. So we're striving to reproduce them as best as possible with the capability cost performance that we built into the system.
And one other question, and if anybody's got any others, let us know, and then we're going to let you go, Bruce. Thanks so much. But looking ahead, how does the Internet of Things and wireless play into the future of photo scanning, I guess based upon your prognostication?
Well, as I tried showing on our list there, you know, we haven't rested on our laurels over the years. You know, we've constantly kept busy developing new releases, new products. So I could envision potentially a product along those lines in the future being wireless, hook it up directly to your internet through Ethernet or traditional ways through a USB connection to your PC. We're always wanting to listen to our customers. You know, what are your needs, and you know, what can we do to make your job more easy and better for you and quicker, and so you can produce a better product. So.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much. I know you guys work hard every day, as manufacturers all over the world do, for this. I know you've got a rich history, and from the beginnings of time when they would dedicate digital time to how to just process films, going back when we were doing film on using emulsion. And I know that you and I have had a lot of time to talk about these things, and you've got a lot on the plate looking future. I want to thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this webinar today. It will be posted up, and you will get a link to that in about 24 hours. And also to invite you to our presentation on August the 9th. And that time we'll take a look at how people consider pictures and photos based upon their age and whether you're a Generation X, Y, Z, baby boomer, or digital native. So thanks so much for your time. Bruce, thank you again,
Thanks,
and I hope that you have a great week.